Now, why do we want to increase the value of the rental properties? This might be obvious, and we as landlords, and during today's presentation, I'm going to take the perspective of the landlord. This is what a landlord would do to increase the value of the rental. It's, of course, we're going to have a different perspective than the homeowners do. So we're homeowners and landlords. We're going to do the same types of improvements, but we have different motivating factors. And of course, we're going to have different factors that are deciding how we're going to handle those reservations. But we as landlords want to increase the value because, of course, we want to, increase our profit. A lot of us are going to eventually sell the rental properties. Maybe you only hold on to them for 2-3 years and then they're worth more and you sell them. Or maybe you're going to hold on to them for 20-30 years, but eventually you're going to sell them. And of course, we want to make more money. Some of us, like me, I don't hopefully intend to ever sell my rental properties, but I want them to appreciate and be worth more over time because I want to borrow against their equity. Believe it or not, there are HELOCs for rental properties, or there are second mortgages you can get for rental properties. Well, the only way you can get those is if your properties are worth more. And then I don't think a lot of people think about this, but if you have a house that is worth more, you probably are going to get better quality tenants and you can command higher rents. So we as landlords, that's very important for us. Another reason that we want to increase the value is I don't think a lot of landlords think about this is, yes, of course, we landlords want to increase the value, but it's good for the tenants as well. Tenants also want properties that have, a nice value. Why? Of course, like you guys are, they're going to be attracted to the nicer properties. The nicer properties are the ones that, have the higher value. I mean, and this doesn't mean just the rich neighborhoods. It could be the lower economic areas, but your property in the area that has, is worth a little bit less. It just has the nicer amenities, looks nicer, so it's worth more. Now, if you have, the tenants are looking out for these really nice properties, hopefully you get the better tenants, and hopefully this translates into the tenants paying you more rent, and hopefully this translates into the tenants taking better care of your properties. I have absolutely found this to be the case. I tend to make my properties, mine are pretty average other than one higher end property, but I always make my just moderate little houses stand out, look nice. I put extra little money into them, increasing the value. And I have absolutely found that I've been able to attract better tenants. I've had really good luck in have them paying rent and taking really good care of the property. If you guys on the call have found that you guys use the same approach, please let us know. And I don't want to ever, put down other landlords, but I think a lot of landlords don't take this approach. They're just going to put the minimum amount of money in their properties. They're not going to fix them up, over time too much. Not only does this decrease the value, but then also you're just not going to attract the various, the higher quality tenants. So keep that in mind. Why do I want to increase the value? Of course, I want to make more money and I want to make a profit when I sell, but I also want hopefully to make my life as a landlord easier by attracting high quality tenants. So that's why keeping in mind during today's presentation, when I say how to increase the value, it's value for the landlords, but it's also value for the tenants. And I think that's a unique approach that a lot of landlords don't think about. Alrighty, so when you're going to do a home improvement project, when I say home improvement, that's could be an apartment building, rental property, etc. Of course, there's lots of things that we need to consider. How much money is this thing going to cost me? How long is it going to take for this project? For homeowners, they don't really care too much, but for us, when we have, the property vacant, when we're trying to do these home renovation projects or these improvement projects, we can't afford to have our property sitting there vacant for long periods of time. So we have to have contractors who can just get in and out and get done quickly. We also need to take into consideration what materials we're going to use. What are the finishes going to be? Again, and another one is like the design. Am I going to go modern? Am I going to go traditional? Am I going to, every rental property on the market now is painted that gray. This is my opinion that I hate, but this is again, very different approach than what homeowners are going to take because they get swayed by HGTV, all these gorgeous houses, gorgeous, finishes that cost billions of dollars and take forever. That's not just going to be us. We have to have different mindset when we do our improvement projects. And then the last thing you kind of should think about as a landlord is it something I'm going to do myself or do I need to hire a contractor? I'm a big DIY proponent. I do a lot of this myself. but I understand a lot of people don't, because a lot of these factors, or maybe you have a job, or maybe you just don't know how, but you got to factor in the cost of the contractor. So when you're thinking about all these things, it's important for us to select the improvements that are going to give us the highest ROI. Remember, return on investment. If I'm spending the time, if I'm devoting the time here and I'm hiring somebody, I want to do something that's going to give me the most bang for my buck, the least amount of money, the quickest, but yet I'm going to get a really nice return on it. And then the other thing to consider as I go through today's presentation, because of course I choose the pretty pictures, is whatever improvement you do has to go along with your property in your neighborhood. So of course, the areas that have the higher rents, maybe you do want to spend more money or more time or do more home improvement projects or have, put the granite in there, the granite countertops. The areas that have the lower rents, it just doesn't make sense. Does it make sense to throw in a granite countertop? No, because you're not going to see that return on investment in terms of the higher rents. So laminate countertops are perfectly okay. So always keep that in mind when you're trying to do these home renovation projects, these improvements, wherever your property is located, they have to make sense with the local area. Carol says the latest trend is natural wood, not gray. Oh, I hope so, because like I said, I think we've beaten that gray paint to death over time. So hopefully the design will change over time. I never adopted it because I don't love the gray, but everybody seems to. Anyway, I don't want to digress. Okay, I think that's the last slide. Oh, yes. So that hopefully sets the stage for what we're going to talk about, what we're not going to talk about, some of the things you should consider as you're thinking about, okay, what should I do with my rental properties to make them worth more over time? So what I did was for today's presentation, I divided it up into low, mid, and high level improvements that we can do. The low level ones are not, you don't have to spend a lot of money or time, maybe just a couple $100, maybe $1,000. You can whip them out in a couple of hours, you or your contractor. So these are going to be mostly like upgrading your existing finishes or upgrading what you already have. The mid-level improvements, you spend a medium amount of money and time, maybe a couple $1,000, maybe five is a little high, maybe $2,000, 2 to 7,000 might be a moderate amount of money. Might take you just one day or a couple of days. So this is where we're talking about the renovations, and I'll show you a couple slides of those, or maybe we're converting things. There's something already there, maybe you've got a dining room that you don't use anymore, so we're converting that one over to a bedroom, etc. And then you have the high level improvements where now this is where you're just pouring in, tens of thousands of dollars. You're spending a lot of time, maybe weeks or months on there for the rental properties. And now we're talking about things like additions. So let's go through and give you some examples of all of these different types of improvements you can do with the goal, keeping in mind, we're going to make the properties increase in value, meaning increase in money, they're worth more, but also make them attractive to tenants. And as I go through these, these are just the ones that I came up with. If you guys have any suggestions or, chime in, please. You say, oh yeah, I did that one. And I'm going to reach out and say, okay, how much money do you think you guys, spent on some of these? Because I haven't done a lot of these improvements over the past couple of years. So I've sort of lost touch on what some of these cost. And then I DIY almost all of these. I do a lot of the work myself. So I'm, again, just not 100% familiar with what contractors charge with a lot of these anymore. And I'm hoping Hadi can join us because, of course, he does this every single day. So I'm hoping he could throw out there some figures about what some of these cost. So if Hadi is not able to join us until later, hopefully you guys can help me out with the cost of some of these.